Okay, we will begin our work session for Wednesday, September 28th. I need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go straight to our presentation discussion. Dustin.
Thank you. As always, we're honored and humbled to be here and are excited about the project. Is it so far? Is it just me on the Zoom?
So you can share your screen if you're ready.
I can share my screen and I can give Maya a hard time for joining late.
Oh, there she is.
Ah, dang it.
You could still give her a hard time though.
All right, wonderful. So a little bit of a recap on where we've been. So we've completed our pre-design phase. We are currently in the first stage of a three-stage schematic design process. Where we've been in schematic design so far during that first phase is to have an initial meeting with tribal members and Bruce and Rusty and our design team. We've gone through a round of design. We've had our community outreach event that was 2 weeks ago today. We've taken our designs total, I believe at that time was one baseline option, 3 baseline plus options. And we've narrowed that down to our presentation today, which is the baseline option and 2 baseline plus options. The COE that we presented on 2 weeks ago was very much for the purpose of showing all stakeholders involved what the potential of this project has, what it can be, and the different levels of that potential. Tonight, the focus is getting City Council's approval to continue moving forward with the options that we have. That's our goal tonight. So for that purpose, this is a much simpler, more streamlined presentation. There's not a lot of beautiful renderings. That is in part too by design. We don't yet have a high level of collaboration yet with the tribe to be able to start integrating some of that native vocabulary in the architecture. So we want to be respectful of that and careful not to overrepresent at this point what the building can look like and other things. Since we are here and we are presenting, we did want to have something beautiful to show you, not just space plan. So we did bring with us a firm concept of what the amphitheater like. So, and as always, I'll let Kelly take the lead on that and presenting to you. So the general gist of how we're going to present tonight, we're going to show you a space plan. We'll start with the baseline option and we'll work our way up in cost. So it'll go baseline to our baseline plus option 2 and then baseline plus option 3. So those are the 3 we'll be looking at. What we're going to do differently this time is after we look at each one of those space plan options, we're then going to look at a site layout with that option so you can see what the connectivity from the public pedestrian point of view looks like, how to permeate the buildings and into the site, what that looks like for each of those options. It's different for each one. And I think with that, Maya, if you're ready, I can turn it over to you to take us through our baseline space plan option. And each of these options have been revised. They're still the same name of the space plan option that we presented during COE number 4. They have been revised to incorporate comments received during and after the COE event.
All right, guys. Decided I better close my door in case the dogs decide to join the conversation. So, as Dustin said, I think many of you have seen versions of this before. This baseline is really kind of our foot in the door, you know, lowest cost and trying to get the building to function the way you need it to at least have something to go back to and know this is the bare minimum of what we think needs to happen for this project. So I think what you're seeing on this is you've got the 4 classrooms that are maintained for those classroom functions. We've got a couple of different layouts as far as different ways that they might be used, showing a different setup for, you know, a training session versus an exhibit versus, you know, kind of a craft setup. We do still have that operable partition between the two on the end there. So you have the opportunity to open those two up into one larger. This does also have the interior corridor. So you can pass from the welcoming center into any of those classrooms as needed and be out of the weather. That welcoming center is right there at kind of the core, you know, near the breezeway, the existing breezeway between the two buildings. To us, this was kind of the gateway introduction into the space, and so it's kind of that first impression of what's happening here with these buildings. So the intention, I think, that could be an ever-changing exhibit that might show not necessarily any one stationary thing. It might be artists, it might be tribal, it might be all kinds of things that might be showcased in that space. The main bathrooms are there, which is the general location of where they currently are, obviously reconfigured just to provide updates and ADA requirements and so forth. We did have it to where you could go through the welcoming center to get into those bathrooms, but we did also maintain an exterior door just to be able to have perhaps that welcoming center closed at certain times if there were functions after hours. And you maybe didn't want people to go in all of the spaces for that building, but still have access to the bathrooms. The gym building stays very similar to the way it is currently. This option maintained that north end. So it's got that mezzanine there, as well as those storage spaces. So we're really just we're proposing just clean that up and freshen it up a bit. But we are adding some toilet rooms, again, to get some ADA upgrade and just functionality upgrades up at that northwest corner there too. And mainly too, for that, to have them quickly accessible from an event that might be happening in the gym space. To the east side, that existing lean-to would maintain pretty much as far as the structure and the bones of it, I guess, the perimeter. But we are proposing a kitchen there in that space. And that one, because of the kind of long and skinny nature of it, just keeping that as a standard kind of catering kitchen, not a full-blown commercial kitchen. But again, having direct access to the gym for service counter, as well as staff to be able to come in and out, and that dishwashing area as well, having its own little counter and doors. So I think some of the things here that we were talking about are, you'll see on all of these options, there are pros and cons to each. Some of the pros have just as equal cons, and it's just a matter of the city deciding, you know, where they want to put the emphasis, or which pro is going to outweigh which con. So we've listed on here, just for a very kind of a quick reference, that this option again is the most economical. What we heard throughout much of the conversations was that the classroom, maintaining the classroom spaces was really very important. So this does maximize the classroom uses and spaces. Sorry, I do keep pausing because I hear little blips and I feel like somebody's trying to interject. So forgive me if I'm pausing a little too much. What we were proposing too on this is that north side of the classroom, obviously changing that window structure and enhancing the view and the connection to the estuary. Some of the cons you'll see listed here, it's less of the on-street parking, and that's due to the right-of-way and for the pedestrian access.
And-
we are
I was
limited
just-
in, go ahead.
Sorry, Maya, I was just gonna say that comment will become more apparent when we take a look at the site plan here, just boom.
Yeah. The finishes, the treatments, the architectural interest and all of that would happen for the exterior of the buildings is limited a little bit more with these options. It's really just kind of a refresh of what's currently there, and it's not so much of an overhaul, which you will see in some of the other options that we'll be showing you. As we said, the existing mezzanine and gym space, it's the mezzanine area and those different, there's different levels that are there that are a little difficult and not certainly accessible. Those aren't going to be touched here, so it's a little bit of a delicate thing to balance with this option here as well. And then Dustin, I don't know if you I didn't really talk much about your legend, if you want to maybe explain or hop in on that a little bit, because I think that's going to be something that you'll see on all of these other sheets to follow as well.
You said the legend?
Yeah, I skipped over that. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, and so all of these sheets, the three options are set up the same way, so we can easily bounce back and forth between them, and it helps having the different functions of spaces colored for ease of reference. You can see, for example, up here, that bright red spot, that is the manager's office in this option. And so it's easy to see in this option that it is not centralized, and therefore that falls into the con column, right? Because the facility manager's office, you want it most likely to be centralized, where they've got good line of sight out to Neckus Park or within the gym, or someplace where just their presence and ability to keep an eye on things limits the amount of labor needed to run the place. So real quick, we can run through them. The blue is classroom and workshop exhibit space. Light blue is the toilet rooms associated with that building, the classroom building. Pink is the welcome center. The darker green is the toilet rooms for the event recreation center or the gym. And then the lighter green is the actual recreation and event center. This orangish yellow is always going to be kitchen space, and the gray is always going to be storage space.
And that will make it really easy as we go through these other options. You can really quickly identify those spaces. Oftentimes that'll come up as we move through, like, oh, where'd the office go and where's storage going? So that will help as this moves forward.
Yeah. So, and as we go through this, feel free to answer questions and bring them up. We don't have to wait till the end. This is pretty loose. But as we go through, you know, it's easy for us to just say, okay, here's the baseline option. Here's the baseline plus option. You can immediately see how the colors change, and the functions of those colors are consistent throughout. And same thing for baseline 3. We'll get to those. Am I okay, Maya, to go and run them through the site plan for this one?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Down here on the bottom right-hand corner, you see this black dot. And then from that, you see these arrows kind of leading off. And this is the natural pedestrian circulation for the site. And it will match up here. It's in red, but it's the same pattern, but you see more of it. One thing that was evident and expressed throughout the programming phase of this project is the necessity for the site to be developed properly and in conjunction, you know, with the tribe's values. So in all options, you're going to see a heritage garden, you're going to see an amphitheater, you're going to see a restored riparian corridor, and you're going to see the recreation field and a southeast entry plaza and a north courtyard. All those elements are going to be in there. In this particular one, so all of the red is the pedestrian circulation through the site. And one thing you'll notice that's a little bit different. So we used to, when we came 2 weeks ago, we came with the concept of either a community garden or a heritage garden. The community garden being more, vegetables and really anyone in the public who wanted to garden there would have a space to garden. We talked about elk being able to get into that and not wanting to have to fight that and putting up a big fence to keep them out, but also to respect the tribe and the importance that they put on having the introduction to this site feature native plantings and what we're proposing as the heritage garden. That name may change. Again, we haven't had as much collaboration with the tribe as we will have had the next time we meet with you. So there will be a lot of change coming, even in just how we name things. In all options, you're going to see down here at the bottom that we are proposing one way on Beaver Street and 45-degree on-street parking. According to our survey, there's a 50-foot right-of-way there. This orientation of parking will eat up 17 feet 4 inches of that right-of-way, thereby leaving 32 feet 8 inches, I believe, for one-way road and any other street improvements that would be required as part of the project. So as we move forward into the second stage of schematic design, we're going to start vetting the details of that and what does that look like. The great thing about this is that we can use that 17 feet 4 inches that's required for the on-street parking and develop it in front of the gym building where we only have 5 feet of space and really start to give that a nice entrance. I think that's probably the cleanest jurisdictional way to approve something like this, to widen that access. And I think it might be, hoping it'll be as simple as just a variance to the city's half street improvement standards. So instead of, what you might have a 3-foot landscape strip and followed by a 5-foot sidewalk, followed by more landscaping, here we would say we would want to develop it in a very specific way to act as, in this case, the extension of the southeast entry plaza and the exterior entrance to the building itself and the site. As I said before, we've modified things to reflect some of the common ideas and things that we heard in the COE event and afterwards. And one of the more beautiful, I would say, ideas that we received was the idea of, we already have agreed more or less on this heritage garden. I think in the last COE event, a takeaway from that was yes to heritage garden and no to the community garden with the fence. That why not potentially use this Southeast Plaza? In some cases, we have a welcome center in this location as access to the city's trail system. And what a beautiful way to start it in native landscaping that is reflecting the tribe's values and their ancestors' way of life. So you will see that in all three options as well. Here, the connection to the Heritage Garden, you can get there from the Southeast Entry Plaza. This particular option, the baseline option, there's no real strong, I would say, entrance identification into the gym building or into the classroom building. We're proposing a new covered canopy over the breezeway between the two, but largely you're still accessing those buildings, well, at least the gym building, the way you are now, and then the classroom building. It's kind of an effort to go into the welcome center and then from there into the classrooms. It's not, as you'll see in the other options, it's a little more natural to enter the site through the welcoming center. Another change that we're showing here, the amphitheater, a different layout. It's not blocking our kayak and canoe access or pedestrian access to what is the more easy way to approach the estuary from the site where the grades are nice and shallow. And we're proposing in all of them the amphitheater is a berm-like concept where I think right now we have it at 3 feet and it probably needs to be a little higher. But this area, this blue hatched area is the beginning of that berm and what we would call a soft boundary between the park and the amphitheater use. We would imagine in all options, well, actually, it's not in this option. I'll get to it when we get to the next site plan. But we do have a north patio where we don't have the existing mezzanine in the gym anymore, and we open that side of the building up on the other plan. That would open up into a north courtyard and another soft boundary there we propose. All options as well are going to feature this hatched area right here at the northeast corner of the site, and that is a restored area of the estuary where grades would be taken back to the way that they were before it was filled in for the play area for the school. And again, this is important to the tribe and symbolic in some ways. And the purpose of this graphic is not to say that this is exactly where it's going to be and this is the shape it's going to be, but that the concept is there. Okay. And then in all three options, you're going to see that the food bank, you might remember from the last one, we had kind of a wimpy little turnaround. Now we're going to propose that they have access to use that north courtyard as part of the turnaround. And before we had that just for fire truck access, but now we're proposing in order to lengthen the stacking distance of cars, we go ahead and use the north courtyard for that purpose. As far as managing traffic and whatnot, traffic lanes, it could be something as simple as setting out cones, which I know, gets done now. Also, each access to the site in each scheme, it's the same. You've got 4 points of access. Access up here in the northeast corner from the trail, access from a proposed bus stop within the Southeast Entry Plaza, the Southeast Entry Plaza itself for pedestrians walking to the site, and then the breezeway access to the site. We're also showing on here, this little green dot with an F is where the facility manager's office is located. And we'll bounce back and forth. We'll give, now that I've kind of described how these functions work, it'll be quicker going through the other options and we can bounce back and forth as you would like to see the difference between one option versus another. Okay, Maya, you want to run them through the next space plan?
Sure. So this baseline plus option 2 is again just a little spin off of what we've already talked about. So the west side of the building is going to be very similar to what you've already seen. It maintains the 3 classrooms with that operable partition. So you do have the opportunity to open those both up and make it one larger space. What this option does is kind of steals that space of what was that 4th classroom. And we have shown here that the kitchen is located in that space as well as the bathrooms. But what this allowed was for that welcoming center and what is currently the breezeway is to have that be an addition to some indoor space. And this really opened up a whole lot of circulation, which to us has much more feeling of a welcoming and an invitation in. That catering kitchen does have the door that maintains access to the adjacent classroom. So you could potentially have some sort of an event in the classroom and then they come in and do some demonstration teaching kitchen sessions. So you have that easy access there. You will see also here that the office is more centrally located. It's right in the kind of traffic pattern of everything, and there's windows that are going to be available there. There's some existing doors there that make it very easy to just turn those into some windows. And it's a large enough space that we're actually showing a couple of desks with even some guest seating there, just to give you kind of an idea of the size of that room. And that still allows for the circulation to and from the restrooms and in and out of the kitchen. This did also pull that service counter for the kitchen back a ways. So again, it gives you lots of space when people are potentially coming from the gym event and maybe come out and line up to get food. It feels a little more elbow room on this one. Looking at the gym, what that does too is it opens everything up in the gym. This option is proposing to remove that existing north mezzanine and all of that storage area that's back there, and really just capitalize on the size and expanse of that space. This would allow us to be able to put glass and glass doors all along that north side. So you really are getting that connection to the estuary, whether you're in or out. Just thinking about being in that big, huge space and having that view to the estuary is pretty exciting, I think. This one does also maintain that existing lean-to. Mainly just keeps it for some storage, which obviously would be pretty important for event and teaching spaces, but then also does have some restrooms dedicated for that gym use. Just a couple of single user bathrooms there with some circulation space and even some coat storage. Looking quickly at some of the pros and cons, just to give a quick kind of a summary of that. This option keeps that kitchen centrally located. Again, it maximizes that gym space. It maximizes the views. It keeps the office centrally located. And it really amplifies the indoor connection between the gym and the classroom. So they're really, really connected and really not running independently so much. You really feel like part of kind of a whole community. Again, some of the drawbacks, certainly not as economical as the baseline, but bang for your buck might be worth the trade-off. Less on-street parking, you do lose a classroom. And then the kitchen is not necessarily easily as expandable if you were to decide to move it to a commercial kitchen. Certainly more so than the baseline, but some size restrictions there. And again, the architectural interest to the gym building itself is limited to that Beaver Street frontage.
Great, thank you, Maya.
Yeah.
And when we say it's limited to that Beaver Street frontage, it's the added architectural interest that we're not saying we would still have, replacement of finishes throughout. It would still, be upgraded. But as far as the form of the building, it's very much the same from the First Street side as it is today. Just a little bit different on the side with the addition between the two buildings. And I do have, again, we don't want to focus so much on architectural design right now. I do have all the renderings available to take a quick glance at if it helped to answer questions, or if you just wanted to see what something like that could look like. We do have a rendering of what an entrance at that location could be. Again, I have to stress that things are going to change as we collaborate with the tribe and start to get that native design language in there. All right, so as we look at how does this modify the site? It was similar to that baseline option. We're taking that Southeast Century Plaza, extend it to that breezeway entry area, which is now an addition to the building and what I would say is a proper welcome center. Taking advantage of that over 17 feet that we gain by taking Beaver Street down to one-way access and the 45-degree angle parking. The comment about not having as much on-street parking, that being a con, it's because in the third option that we'll show you, we have more on-street parking there. But as I was looking through these exhibits and getting my thoughts together on how we were going to present tonight. I'm actually thinking that this type of layout with parallel parking along that southern edge directly in front of the gym, we can get 3 more stalls there. And I think that's probably the answer for all 3 options. So this one here, very similar site infiltration by pedestrian circulation. We bounce back and forth real quick between the baseline option and this option. It's very, very similar. Main entrance is still around the south side of the gym, but it's no longer just that little 5-foot sidewalk. Now it can be a proper extension of the entry plaza and really make it feel like it's not an afterthought. Classrooms were all accessed from the exterior, all but that first classroom to the east. And again, all the same side elements as the baseline option.
Minus the one above the north plaza or whatever, the northern plaza.
Oh, right. Thank you, Kelly. So but we talked about the northern plaza a little bit, this one not having it because there's a existing mezzanine that we're keeping here and we don't have that connectivity out to Neck-Use Park from the north side of the gym in this one. Here that changes and now we can start looking at sort of a reception type plaza out there with a soft transition or a soft boundary between the north courtyard, which we see as being potentially a really busy and could be packed full of people for all types of events, to something much more intimate. All right, and I think that is one thing I want to point out on these 2 options too. We're showing this nature trail sort of new spur that extends out into the heritage garden. There would be access from that trail out to Neck-Use Park. It's just not something that we're considering as part of the trail system. Graphically, it can look like you can't get there. You can't get to Neck-Use Park from the heritage garden, but that is not the intent. Okay, Maya, I'm going to turn it to you for our 3rd and final option here.
Sure. So this is the baseline plus option 3. And again, I think I'll just start with that, the school building. So this does maintain the 4 classrooms. We are actually proposing on this one that you have the potential to do 2 of the operable partitions in in 2 of the 4 classrooms. So each end could open up to create 2 larger classrooms or be maintained as 3 or 4. So adding that flexibility just to be able to pivot and provide whatever the community's after is really what we're trying to show that this building has the capability for. This does again maintain the bathrooms in the same general location that they currently are. It provides the storage directly from one of the classrooms, so that could potentially be dedicated for the school building, with an additional smaller storage room access from the breezeway, which would be a little more open and versatile. This does put the facilities office right there again at the entrance of that breezeway area. It's a good size. I'm not sure that how many people exactly you're going to want to fit in there, but a 12 by 12 could certainly be another shared office. You just may not be able to put guest chairs in there if you were to maybe have people come in and talk about renting. So it's area probably the same, but configuration a little different. So that's just might be laid out and function a little bit differently. So we'll just want to talk about what those needs might be moving forward. This does maintain the breezeway, so there's no building connection between the 2 buildings. Looking over at the gym, that's really where things kind of get shook up and changed and really kind of have a new life. So for this option, we're actually proposing to take down that existing lean-to and rebuild a new welcoming center over there. So it's different shape, different size, different feel. And that really gives you the opportunity to make this kind of a touchstone and really a beacon and a wayfinding point for multiple different patterns from the city to and from. The welcoming center here, part of what we were trying to show with this option is the potential of even bringing Dragonfly in there from time to time to really showcase it to the community, whether it's visitors or community members who live there. So that's what you're seeing with this layout, with some just kind of more fun natured seating arrangements and or display cases in that area. And then we also have the restrooms there that's pulled out of the gym building, but in that welcoming center. So again, it's available to the welcoming center, but yet available to the gym when there are events. Again, at the north side of that gym, having the windows and this showing even roll-up doors potentially with the glazing in it so that you have those visual connections and the actual fresh air coming in. I think the big thing, and I'll let Dustin speak more to this, is kind of that mid-band there of the gym. We're proposing adding some bracing in there to be able to open up the sides of this building, to be able to have open air connection views, tie into the plaza to the north from the southeast. And Dustin, did you want to talk more about that particular element?
Yeah, and this is something that we are not showing in either the baseline or baseline plus option because it certainly is an added cost. The bracing that you see in here would be glue line beams that take the sectional profile, if you will, of the barrel vault. Currently, you can't cut those 2x8 ribs. It acts as a membrane structure in there. I think I've said it before. The first time I walked into that space, I was just kind of shocked. I was expecting big glue line beams, you know, and purlins connecting the beams, and it's not. It's just almost like a house, right? 2x8s every 24 inches on center, all the way up and over to create this roof. And so it does act like a shell. Each one of those members is critically important. And to modify those requires a structural solution that is a full arc like this.
Justin, would that provide a benefit seismically? Is there an advantage to having that over not having it?
Seismically, no. Neither advantage or a disadvantage.
All right.
Yeah. What that option does do is allows us to open up the space within those two structural members pretty much as much as we want. My structural engineering film kicking me right now, but whether it's clear story windows to get more daylighting in them, and in this option, we're showing it creates a glazed entrance, that identity that we were missing in the baseline option for an entrance into the gym, a proper entrance that's just not a pair of doors or a single door. But because we want to get the most bang out of your buck for putting in these structural members, you want to take advantage of that opposite side. And here it does that as well. So we have a similar language going on the other side, where we would have a proper entrance into the gym space, nice, tall, glazed, clear story windows coming in off of the.
How does that affect the games and the pickleball and the basketball and so forth? How would that affect the lining?
So that's a great question. One thing that we would do during the next phase is to take a look at how tall we think those doors should be, because depending on how tall those doors are, the taller they are, the further back we have to set them into the space. What isn't shown well right now is that these exterior walls, north-south walls, you're losing width in the space as you go up. And that's not very well represented here. So while it shows that these doors might be cutting in at the moment, it's about 3 feet. This is a 3 foot wide door. The impact it has to games and things on the inside, realistically, is less than that. It might be a foot or 18 inches. But definitely something to be on your mind, and will be on our mind as we consider court layout options and the shape of this roof and its effect.
Roger too.
Maya, was
Okay.
there anything on the space plan you wanted to?
Yeah, so we didn't really talk about the kitchen, so I wanted to wrap up with that portion. So in order to open up that north end of the building, we have moved the kitchen function to the south, and we're proposing that this area, we would build a mezzanine that would be a storage mezzanine above it. So this also shows a 6x6 lift so that larger items could get taken up to that mezzanine storage space, and take advantage of that whole footprint. And that footprint of the mezzanine takes all of this lower area, both of the yellows and the gray there. So you would have storage up above that whole section of the building. The other thing actually that I did like about this is the double doors there at the bottom left-hand corner, really more for delivery drop off, and having that be the ingress egress, and letting the rest of the site and entrance into the building be really more for the community and the actual events that are happening, that this would be really more of a utilitarian little space. And it's, I think when Dustin shows the site plans, kind of makes sense because it's tucked off out of the way a little bit, and you could have your delivery trucks just unload and off you go. But again, this one is the catering kitchen, and we are proposing this adjacent to it, a kitchen classroom. So you could have some teaching sessions in there, community events, all within the same area. And I believe we've talked a little bit about it. You know, the catering kitchens are a little less intimidating if that really is the intended use, to be able to have community events and help people learn how to cook and prepare healthy food. And so that's one of the benefits of having that catering kitchen layout. It's more familiar for the average person.
Jennifer on too. It sounds like she wants to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the question about putting the doors into the space. I think when you look at the exterior now, you'll see that they have these little outies that they accomplish that for that same reason that Dustin's talking, that the walls aren't vertical, so they either have to go in or they go out. And so right now there's these little areas where the doors are projecting out to accommodate, with a little roof area to accommodate that. So we can certainly look at how far they go in, as Dustin said, do an exploration of what makes sense from a vertical standpoint. But I just wanted to bring that up, that there's already some of that happening. It's a different solution than he's proposing, but that solution is happening right now.
Did I understand those openings could push out as well as going in?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jennifer is clarifying that while I'm showing here that they are innies as opposed to outies, they could be outies as well and not impact.
I've interrupted. Where are you putting the HVAC and all the utility equipment, water heaters, and where will all that show up?
Yeah. And again, as we start to develop those ideas in these next couple stages of schematic design, it kind of depends. If we were to connect both of the buildings and make one building out of them, it probably makes sense. And we'd have, our mechanical engineer speak to this, but to use the flat roof of the classroom building to store rooftop equipment that serves both the classroom building as well as the gym.
Okay.
Now the gym itself, obviously we can't put any. There's always the option of doing something pad mounted on the exterior for the gym. And that probably is going to be the solution for like the baseline option where we don't have a connection between the two buildings.
The other place that we can look is this has a mezzanine on it. So like this baseline plus option 3 has a mezzanine. So some of the equipment might want to be stored up there as part of that area.
All right, Maya, did you want anything else on the space plan?
I think that's everything, unless we want to go through the pros and cons really quickly, just as that summary. So again, this one maximizes the classroom spaces. The main entrance for the gym faces the Southeast Plaza, which is really kind of that engaging, invigorating connection to the community. The kitchen with the adjacent classroom can serve as a teaching kitchen or a catering kitchen. This does maintain the existing site access between the classroom and the gym buildings. The new welcoming center is really our opportunity to showcase the site and the new building and really, again, draw in people's attention, and it gives us all kinds of opportunities to add some architectural interest. It engages the visitors coming off of First Street, as well as Beaver. It's just gives us all kinds of opportunity, I guess, to draw people in. There's plenty of outdoor covered area. It really optimizes the views to the estuaries for both buildings. And then, as I had said earlier, it gives you that separate storage for the classrooms and the gym, so you can have dedicated areas for those storage needs.
Is there any idea how much more it would cost for this particular option?
You know, I don't want to throw any balls. We're so close to having our CMGC on board and able to consult on these. So my understanding is that as of October 11th, we'll have them on board. They won't be able to just start throwing costs at it immediately, but I think by the time we get to our next COE event, we are going to have some ballpark ideas. And just to reiterate on that note, that is part of why we're not asking you tonight to make a decision on, okay, which one of these do you want to proceed with? We're asking for your authorization to continue to develop all three of these for pricing purposes. And again, we're going to start our more intensive collaborations with the tribe and start getting their ideas and input into each of these schemes. Yeah, so we tried to make this first one easy. The purpose of these city council milestone approvals is at the end of the day to seek a level of authorization. And we tried to make it easy on this first one. I promise we'll make it harder as we get into this, because the whole idea in schematic design is to be presenting you with options and to begin to vet those options and taper them down. So at the end of schematic design, we have one option standing that we're going to take into what we call design development and start developing it into more into working drawings and less conceptual. All right, so if we look at the site for this one, bounce back and forth a little bit so you can look at the colors, the red circulation patterns in that Southeast Entry Plaza. So you'll remember that baseline and this first baseline plus option, or baseline plus option 2, very similar. Oops, sorry. Between that. Here, you start to see a little more branching out. And so what that means is from the Southeast Entry Plaza, which is our activating, congregating public space, you have direct access into the gym, you have direct access into the Welcome Center, you have direct access to the Heritage Garden. You have from there direct access over to the Breezeway entrance. And as I mentioned a little bit before in looking at this in preparation to speak tonight, I do feel like we missed an opportunity here that this should reflect the same type of Southeast Entry Plaza represented here, and that we should have 3 parallel parking spaces on each of these. I think that is probably the best option for all 3 site plan options. And again, so now you have really 2 ways to permeate the buildings and into the site, and they both feel like main entrances. One of the comments that we got last time, and I thought it was incredibly helpful and not how I was thinking about it. I was excited that adding the Welcome Center here is engaging visitors coming off the First Street Bridge. And I felt like that was important. But somebody brought up, well, maybe you're turning your back a little bit too much for our community. We had the access to the classrooms purely through the Welcome Center and around the north side of the gym and down to the north side of the classrooms. Here, you can do it either way. But by extending the Southeast Century Plaza over to the breezeway and adding a nice canopy structure in there, you have a secondary entrance into the site that feels purposeful. And about that entrance, you know, we had in previous options kind of block that off. And something that we heard time and time again is that is how people access the site today. That's kind of a habitual access, if you will. And you can either block it or you can embrace it. And what we have heard throughout the community outreach events is to embrace that. And that's what we've done here. So this option, as Maya pointed out, this gives us the most connectivity from the sort of entrance to the site, which is the Southeast Plaza, to the most functions that make up the site. The Heritage Garden is extended to that north side of the Welcome Center. So the Welcome Center in this sense becomes your trailhead. It's a place to, like in all other options, learn about the history of the site, especially the native heritage of the site. But in this option in particular, a great space to start learning about the way that they used plants and the types of plants. And you can exit out of that space directly into this heritage garden, into these plants that you were learning about, and have direct access from there to Cannon Beach's trail system. It felt like it tied a lot of concepts together. It's not to say that this option doesn't have cons, and I think maybe what would be helpful when I finish talking about this site layout, and I'm almost there, is just to run back through real quick before we open it up to general Q&A and just run through the quick pros and cons, the big pros and cons, not each and every one. And then we can start having that open discussion. So in this option, again, nothing has changed as far as food bank circulation. It's still increased. They're able to access the north courtyard to increase stacking distance for the cars. Amphitheater still provides for pedestrian and kayak and canoe access out to the estuary. Along those gentle grades, we still have that restored riparian area and area of restored grades back to the way it was when Clatsop-Nehalem tribe was actively on site. And then again, the Heritage Garden in the Southeast Century Plaza. Those are the three options presenting tonight and that we're looking for authorization to proceed to continue to develop. Taking into consideration concepts from the tribe as well as budgetary information received from the CDC. So going to recap with the clip notes real quick. This space plan option, it's the baseline option. You maintain all 4 classrooms. The Welcome Center is a little small. It's a little off the beaten path. The event space is still nice and large. We maintain that existing mezzanine in there, some of which we can use underneath for storage space. In this option, this is where we put the facility manager's office, which we've already noted is not an ideal location for that. And your catering kitchen is limited to the size of the existing Link-T structure, which would be maintained. The second level of that existing mezzanine is almost not usable for anything other than light storage. And that's probably not without some structural upgrades, but certainly not accessible to the public. The next option up, the baseline plus option 2. This one, our catering kitchen is moved over to the classroom building side. In doing so, we lose one of the classrooms. So we're down to 3 classrooms. This one incorporates an addition connecting both buildings, giving you interior access to either the classroom building or the gym from that welcoming center. The welcoming center is a necessary part of the access to the site through that breezeway. It's not off the beaten trail a little bit, something that is kind of must experience for the occupant. Maybe the greatest benefit of this option, or one of them, is that it opens up the full barrel vault gym for event space and recreation space. And then the existing lean-to is maintained for restrooms and storage. And then our last option, a new welcome center at the northeast corner, helps the user to permeate the buildings and the site in more ways than the other two options, makes it more accessible. It's a higher cost than the other two. It does not have the full use of the gym that option Baseline Plus option 2 has. We're using some of that for a storage mezzanine with the catering kitchen below. Catering kitchen in this option, which is no wall between that and the adjacent kitchen classroom, which makes it great as a training and demonstration kitchen as well as a catering kitchen. I think one thing, I'm not quite sure if we talked about this. I don't remember talking about it, but in this option, we do have a nice large storage space accessible to the classrooms as well, which is something that the other two options don't have. And a nice centrally located manager's office. Okay, so with that.
Kelly's part.
Oh, the beautiful amphitheater options. Kelly, you want to run us through your thinking?
Sure. So we went through and edited our idea to have more of like the berm idea. So it's more of a natural slope and kind of gives a natural transition from the recreation space outside to an amphitheater. So we have a berm that slopes up from the field, and you can sit there. And then it drops down to a pathway, and this pathway can be used to carry boats through, to go to the natural space where canoes can go, or just for people walking to the beach. And then it continues to go down and slope down, and it goes to about -3 feet. So it's just a very natural space, sloping space that goes down. So it's not as rigid as the previous option with steps. It's just a very natural slope down, and everybody can kind of sit around it. And then at the center is a stage, and again, the fire pit. And then we have 3 little breakout spaces like we did before, where there are smaller fire pits around that kind of go within the sloping of the berms that people can sit on.
And, I just have to reiterate, this is done almost entirely outside the influence of the tribe. This is not being proposed as a final concept, just, we kind of set a tone in that last community outreach events that we would have some nice images to look at for potential design options, and didn't want to let you down. So, again, very conceptual placeholder, if you will. And in this next round, when you see this next, it will go through revisions that incorporate some of the tribe's influence. Can we answer any questions?
I have a question about the breezeway and on the baseline. And one of the others had an open breezeway. Question is, will it truly be open, or will there be doors at each end of the breezeway?
That for us is a operational question. We can make it work architecturally either way. But I'm glad you brought that up, because as we are looking through these options, we do need you all thinking about how are we going to manage this space? How many people is it going to take to manage this space? How it's managed differently between when it's used for events versus classrooms versus just general recreation. So I guess I would toss that back to city council and say, do you want to have doors there? Do you want that space to be blocked off at times to the general public?
Yeah, I think there's that aspect. I was also thinking of the wind tunnel effect that's open to the south, which winter times are predominant wind direction. And so that ties into my next question. That is, like in this baseline, you have the hallway access to the classrooms being enclosed, internal. The others, you're outside. And again, it's on that south face. I'm just thinking, you know, you're going from your meeting in one of the classrooms or the catering kitchen or to the main building with the wind blowing. But you lose space.
That's the
Closing it and having a hallway in the middle. It's just an observation. I don't know which is best.
That's the rub, right? It's always a push and pull, a give and take, and
And it doesn't truly rain here all the time. Just
Your renderings, there is always access from the north to the classrooms, is it what I'm seeing?
yes, always.
With what I assume is covered breezeway out there?
Yes.
Okay.
the way the baseline is, it also give you a little better security instead of so many doors going into each class,
Yes.
you know, which should all be locked, but
And as you noted, this is the only option that we show that internal corridor. There actually hasn't been much outspoken support for the trade-off of having that internal connection amongst the classrooms and the welcome center. Losing space.
yeah, you lose a lot of space that way.
So the other options, we show it as covered. So you're covered from that rare straight down rain that you get here at the coast. It offers some level of protection though.
On the baseline, you have the stage and the projector facing south, which even when you open the windows on the north end, would still seem to me to be their proper direction as far as having backlight coming in. I just wondered on 3 and 2, would it make sense to reverse the direction of the stage and projector?
Mhm.
Have that whole blank wall to go against.
And this has been a topic of conversation, in our office amongst our design team. And so what you're seeing as a stage right now is a platform that would be disassembled and stored when not in use.
Yeah.
That platform can be set up anywhere in that space. The truth is until we get in there and do a light study and we know which option that we're looking at and where we're going to have windows and how much windows, don't really know if backlighting is going to be that much of a problem on a north facing window like that.
Yep.
And for some events, it may be just fine, but for like projection and whatnot, it could be that for a visual presentation during the day, that having that platform on the south end of the building would make sense.
You had a vision showing movies to the public against that south wall. You have much bigger screens, be an evening activity that doesn't involve meetings and conferences and that sort of thing, but just another community activity. Been to other communities where they actually in the park, but it's adjacent to a building.
Mhm.
And the whole building is basically been painted white as a huge screen. Everybody sits out in the yard and the lawns, and it's really nice. And so again, that's part of my questioning is why not reverse the direction of that? And even with the mezzanine, it's going to be enclosed, so it's going to be a huge blank space to work with.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point about the size of the screen, because in an option like this, where we're having you spend the money on all this glazing on that north end, part of that's going to be egress out that north end to get out to the park and to the north reception plaza. What we can't do is drop a screen in front of our egress doors. You don't have that problem on the south side in, for example, this option. But you are also fighting the curvature of the roof, which is going to further limit the size of that screen.
You can't just put up a sheet.
That's what I do with my kids.
Yeah, it works.
I'm looking at this not at all from architecture, but looking at it from management. Because there's just a couple of things I'd like to bring up. One, you bring up whichever one has Beaver and the street going down this way. Site.
There we go.
Good, good. When we were looking at this one, you used the words, the natural pedestrian entrance. And I don't know where the people would be coming from if this was like the natural entrance, because most people are going to be coming from downtown. And the people coming from downtown are going to walk down this street facing this. So there's not that many people unless you're coming over from the park or something like that. So I don't know if that is truly the natural. I think you're going to be drawn to it. But I think probably more people will be from over this side. They're coming in, park someplace else. This, with the arrows going west, I would suggest we switch them so that they go east, because if there's a queue, it's going to be out here on Hemlock right away. So, but if there's, a queue that's going to be, down this street and then down this much, we got a lot more room to stack cars. This one actually just puts them right out into the where we don't want them. I think we would be crazy to do anything that doesn't have storage for the classrooms. There's gonna be a lot of things going on there, and so we need to have that. On this one, we talked about extending this part, but to me, from here, you've got this really nice vista out there, and this potentially cut some of that off. Oh, I got into architecture, sorry.
No. This is one of the more contentious points of design on this project in our offices right now is where can we put these restrooms as part of the new welcome center that won't affect either the openness of the gym or views out towards the north. And to be honest with you, we don't have the right solution yet. This was I think the last thing we did before coming here today was move this from the west side of the addition to the east side and try to make it feel a little more integrated, but it's definitely in progress.
Okay, all right, and then the manager's office, you and I have had this conversation. I want to kind of ramp up staff kind of modularly or incrementally. And so what I would like is like something here, which is, I don't think anybody wants to see prime space being, used for management or something. But if this building is not being used, we could lock it down. If these buildings not being used, it could be locked down with one employee monitoring the whole site. Once we start getting into a function over here or over here, we might have to add some people. But this, this person needs to know what doors are open in which direction. And I think we will go crazy with cost if we have to keep the whole thing open, if anything is open. So I think we need to look at being able to close off functions, or at least locations.
So where do you think the manager's office then should be?
Myself, up here in this corner of the classrooms, because you can see out, can see, just step out and see what's going on down here, going in over to the gym. And this is going to be over time our biggest cost is staffing. And so I think we need to think in those terms. And one other thing, when we're talking about and this is where I come in as the bus killer. But when we talk about the kitchen, I think the kitchen is going to be used, can be used very little. And the reason is it's going to be a professional kitchen. And so if I go in and make a sandwich or something on the counter, that has to be cleaned professionally for the next people that are coming in. We just can't have people go in, make something in the kitchen, and then have, like a caterer or somebody else come in. So it's, in my mind, from a management standpoint, you're going to want to keep that locked down. And then if there is an event and you bring caterers in, that's something. But the kitchen should not just be for whoever's coming around unless they've got somebody with the credentials and the ability to clean to the standards that are required for a catering kitchen. I just think that we are going to have to use that standard of care when we allow people in.
So would that preclude the food bank from using that kitchen?
I don't know. What Bruce is asking is a management decision on how we use the kitchen.
Well, but if I'm just talking about the professional cleaning standards.
If the food bank's going to use the kitchen for presentations, for playing, or whatever they need to use it for, they would have to, in my sense, in the management sense, have to establish a cleaning protocol that goes along with that. So that it is locked down when they're done and it's ready to use for the next people. That makes total sense to me. And also if we have, an invitational chef coming in to do a presentation in the kitchen, same kind of protocol.
Yeah, that I understand. It's just,
Yeah.
How is the food bank going to use it and how will they have it cleaned?
I guess I question the demand for a full kitchen. I haven't heard the food bank saying, boy, we sure do need a full kitchen. Or any event, we have those at the chamber with a very small kitchen. I don't even know if I'd call that a catering kitchen, but it's how it's used. And it's served its purpose over and over and over without having a full commercial kitchen capability. And I guess part of me worries about really competing with the restaurants that do catering and the hotels that provide banquet meals. And we're setting up a full commercial kitchen and we don't need you now. I don't know if it happened that way, but I see it as building, taking up a lot of space for something that I just haven't heard the demand for it. And then competing and perhaps depriving business from the current restaurants and hotels.
I see it a little bit different in that I suppose there was going to be a wedding. The family of the bride or the groom or somebody, unless they've got a professional cleaner coming in or something after, we probably can't just say, well, you can go ahead and use that. But if they're in town, they're going to want to hire a caterer. And so that creates potentially another business opportunity for some of our local folks. So I don't know. Anyway, that was my thought on that. And I do think that especially when you've got big spaces like the gym and all that for some of the kind of events we're going to have, I think we do need a catering kitchen. So it's like there's high quality food coming in, heated, whatever, and then dispersed, and then they clean on their way out. I think that is really an important function for something like this.
Yeah, You didn't
Yeah, we
understand.
kind of,
I'm talking about, I don't think we have a need, I haven't felt a need for a full-blown commercial kitchen.
Oh, yeah,
We
agreed.
definitely need a catering kitchen and one larger than, rather than smaller, just for the flow of people and work. And as you say, to be able to serve that number of tables,
Mhm.
we need something large, certainly larger than what the chamber has.
Yeah, it has to be much larger.
Yeah, but a
I think
full
also,
commercial kitchen with a hood and
we
the
kind of,
fat removals and
like, we kind of eliminated that last time,
Mhm.
because that's why these three options don't have it. And
That's
you've got a
correct.
Version of a
Yeah.
catering kitchen in each three.
That's correct. These are all catering kitchens.
And I did note that you have included a slight expansion on the idea of a catering kitchen into a teaching kitchen. There is a difference. But there's a much better overlap between those two than there would be with a commercial kitchen involved. So commercial kitchen is off the
definitely.
table, I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
Some way to be able to use the kitchen so that we have that experience of or the capability of a teaching experience. And that is a little bit more than just a catering kitchen, because catering doesn't really need a stove, but it needs warmers. Whereas a teaching kitchen might want one burner or one little cooktop type thing. So I think that's been a great step. I want to step back to one of Bruce's that brought up a question. It wasn't really Bruce's question, but the idea of the restroom in the welcoming center. Why? Why are we always focusing on a second restroom when we have a potential for a full-blown public restroom, not public to the public, public to the facility, central to the whole property?
My response to that is if you can, let me see. If you're gonna do the gym, if you're gonna have an event in the gym, then you have to open up the classroom side.
Don't have to open up the classroom side, you just have to open up the restrooms. Restrooms should have outdoor access.
Yeah, and if that was reconfigured, that could happen. I agree.
Yeah.
But, and we talked about this a little bit, like what is the welcoming center? And what are we trying to accomplish there? And then should the restrooms and those kind of amenities be inside? But not if you have to keep it open, you know, that we wouldn't, if you wouldn't normally have to.
Yeah, I just seen that it's not a lot of space, but it's kind of a waste of space to me.
It does give the opportunity for like a family restroom or somebody like having a more of a unisex bathroom when you do the more separate ones. Just
But you could expand the,
bad, but that's
could expand the central bathroom to have that family restroom involved there also. Better.
My personal 2 cents on that is that if, like, let's take this option here, the third option as an example. Here, you would probably use the welcome center as the point of control for people coming to a ticketed event.
Mhm.
And at that point of control, if I walk into a movie theater, I'm going to expect a bathroom off the lobby.
Mhm.
Or into a restaurant, I'm going to expect it to be close to that main entry and not, you know, adjacent in the adjacent building. So I naturally kind of tend to that. And I think that if there wasn't one in the welcome center and the welcome center is intended to be used for that function, even occasionally, that I think you're going to have a lot of people scratching their head as to why isn't there?
And I don't think we should rely on the minimum fixture count for the number of toilets and those kind of things. I think we need to go over and above. Because having lines is not something that people are, you know.
I'm not saying minimize it, I'm saying.
Yeah. I didn't think you were saying, I'm just saying that when I'm looking at it, I see like 2 stalls. And in the gym, it's like, you know, if that's where people, you know, walked in and all that stuff. And you've got people sitting at all those tables and there's 2 stalls. I just think that we should put more in. We should exceed the minimum required. So that people are comfortable in the gym, in the facility.
Okay, again, the light blue says that to me. That's where the bathrooms have always been. That's where everybody's gonna say, well, that's where the bathrooms are. To me, of course, I haven't a history there, but and the other thing is there's a lot of complex parts to this puzzle, and if you pin one down, it's going to affect a lot of the others.
Mhm.
So in that case, I could not go with any one option, but there are better parts to the other options that I would start melding with the better parts. The location right now where the welcoming center is, to me, has always been the optimal for that kind of aspect of the facility. I don't see that as the entrance to the gymnasium. I think the gymnasium needs to focus, if we're not going to maintain the current mezzanine plan. So I would fight for that. I think it's doable, but I don't think that there's a lot of support for that. Just me thinking. The south wall is the best grand entrance to that space.
Mhm.
And go to one of the site plans for a second. That one, yeah. But where you've added the green space, I'm gonna call it green space, the yellow space into Beaver. I would focus that more towards the center of the gym. Put the handicapped over on the east side. The other question is, why not make that kind of an event entrance where you would have a limousine pull up and people get out? Limousine kind of thing would be the same size as a bus, so why not put the bus stop right there and make it a grand welcoming thing and save that space on First Street for greenery and other stuff. That to me makes the whole idea of the gymnasium's entrance to the south. You still connect to that southeast corner. I think that's very important. Then the welcoming space becomes more of a welcoming space towards the site.
And I don't think there's any, I agree with you that the welcome center does not need to be the entrance into the gym. I think when we were looking at options to do that, we were starting to sort of end up with more of the same as far as how much we were affecting the available volume of the gym. So if you put your south entrance on that gym side, you're obviously going to have entry vestibules and maybe some bathrooms and other features that start to cut into that space. And then we still have the kitchen to think about, and we have the welcome center to think about. And
well, this is where I would pull from option 2, because that's the best location for the combination of kitchen, restrooms, and manager. So I would just rotate that around somewhere. So that's kitchen, restrooms, and manager. The pink then moves up to the northeast corner, up to that. That then gives you the full interior to work with. And since we've talked about having mezzanine either on the north or south side, use a mezzanine idea on the south that is an entry lobby. I sent that kind of stuff. We would be losing, I would again move that butted up to the gymnasium, the central area, and move the breezeway so it would be just east of the classroom and turn it into a lockable hallway. Again, I'm throwing out new ideas to folks, but
So I want to get back to one thing that you said initially in this part of the discussion, which is don't want to have to pick any single option that really these are going to represent. Each one of these is going to have benefits that the other doesn't have. And the idea is to, from these, coalesce, one single best option at the end of the schematic design phase. And that's why we're coming to you tonight with a request to continue to explore these options, not necessarily as distinct options, but to continue to explore these ideas and to manifest from them the next round of options to put in front of you.
I think it's very important that we have 3 value level options. Because that's really going to be a determinant when we get to how much things cost. But certain items that you can't do without, like the bathrooms, are going to be critical to make sure we put them in the right spot.
I really don't want to lose that 4th classroom. That's one thing that I'm concerned about. I really like to keep that 4th classroom. I think we're gonna have a demand for use of those.
If you think about it, Nancy, see how much space is in pink right now? And if that pink were moved up to the or right-hand corner, that's void then where the breezeway is right now. The breezeway is 10 feet wide, 12 feet wide,
12 feet.
12 feet. So there's potential there that 4 classrooms are still possible if you lose the breezeway.
Anytime I try to look at that, I go back to people are going to be very comfortable going into something, even if it's new, the way that they used to. And if we do block off the breezeway, to get down to the beach. People that are coming in or walking dogs or stuff like that. Is there room on the west side of the classrooms to get around? Would they go all the way around the other side of the gym and walk out?
That would be, yeah.
I mean, I'm just
I mean, if that's where the trail is, I follow the trail. You're coming from, is it Antler? What's the Antler?
It's Antler.
Yeah, you just go around the building. I know the breezeway is to go through, but
Well, you wouldn't just go around the building, it's right up by the fence. Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm going around to the southeastern plaza.
Oh,
Just follow the new trail that would go through the Heritage Garden. I would think that's, if you're out for a walk, a little extra walk. Or
If this is supposed to be an event center for people from outside of the community, they aren't going to necessarily be used to going through the breezeway.
But you're still gonna have a bunch of people that are going that way.
just walking from the parking.
Yeah, just
spaces in town.
from anywhere, and if they've got dogs or anything that they're taking down to the beach. It is a it generates a conflict. It might not be a big deal. But I would like to see those reduced if we can, so that we don't just we don't have those conflicts.
I agree with what you're talking about, Bruce, is if you're walking from downtown and you're coming up Antler, to an event.
Yeah.
You want to find an entrance.
Yeah.
What I think is really positive about the Southeastern Plaza is when you drive into town, you see,
Yeah.
oh, there's a place for events. So I think that's the benefit of that whole eastern edge, is that it's our visual attraction.
Yeah, it's a significant upgrade to that stretch.
Yeah. But again, that's where I would focus on the south wall of the gymnasium as some sort of grand entrance. Because that's close enough. The other, since we got the site plan up, question I had, we seem to be keeping the little sawdust trail exactly where it is. It could meander a little better and stuff like that when we get to the more details of that, especially around the trees. There's
Yeah,
a
the
choice area up in there. That would give you a little more room with the events or the open air auditorium kind of thing to work around.
Tribe said they wanted to create exactly what you're saying, but some kind of nodes up there along that, so that you would meander the trail to kind of get to new destinations. Because just that it looks so straight, it doesn't make sense with that type of a site.
We want to have the border of the majority of that be open park and it's a nature trail. If it does feel like it wants to be buried within the riparian area and not bordered by a playing field.
Yeah, but I makes sense. Just the purple is the important part, and you don't want to encroach upon it too much, but you want to a little bit.
Yep.
And okay.
Well, on your, I guess your option 3. Maybe like you could take not the site plan, but couldn't understand why you couldn't just take the welcome center, in essence, move it down to where the kitchen is out, but the kitchen back up there. Then you have a welcome center that comes right in off the plaza. It extends all the way through to the breezeway. And then the kitchen and teaching area could both go back up to the northeast corner. Basically just swap those two. And the welcome center wouldn't have the high arched roof because there's a mezzanine above it, but it would be high enough and you could still fit the dragonfly in there and have access to the welcome center from the plaza or the side between the classrooms and the gym.
So for me, the main benefit of the welcome center in this location, well, there's a few. One is that it's directly off of the Southeast Century Plaza, which I agree with everything that Mayor Sam said about it being the activation of this space. And we're hoping that through that sort of activization, people's habits to some degree will change and they'll want to come through that end of the site and experience that beautiful space to wait for their friends or to have a conversation on a bench, surrounded by a beautiful garden. But aside from that, having that as a connection piece between the Southeast Century Plaza and the trail system and extending the trail system to that space, and then the space between this welcome center where you go and you're learning about the site, not just the nature, the historical significance and heritage of the site, but also the plants and the natural ecological components of the site. And then you step out of that space into that natural setting in the heritage garden. That to me ties it all together very well. So you lose that in any other option where you pull the welcome center off that northeast corner directly off of the heritage garden.
Yeah.
And a kitchen teaching area does not need a view.
That's right.
I mean, because your focus is right in the room.
Kind of like classrooms, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Daylight is great, but spectacular views in a classroom are not. You want people focused on the task at hand, and the task at hand is not the view.
The other thing is you want to start thinking about operations, as if you had that kind of reversal, you want to have the welcoming center open for general public on a Saturday in the summer. You've got pickleball players in the big room, and you've got classes going on in the classrooms, and the kitchen's way the heck off in the corner. And somebody in the classrooms, maybe that's a wedding over there or something. That becomes very awkward. So having the kitchen as central as possible.
Yeah, we can
Functions,
serve both areas.
yeah. And the welcoming center, again, is the one thing that we probably would want a scheduled time of opening for most days in the summer. Who knows what we're gonna do in the winter and that kind of stuff. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, it'll be its own attraction.
But it's totally out of sight of the office space. If it's an issue or not, but
If it was right across from the doors. And I'm thinking that we would probably have some cameras on the site. That would go to the office so that you could see who was in the classrooms. One of those things. And the gym.
I thought that, again, comes back to our question of operations. What is a welcoming center? Is it something where we have staff all the time?
Mhm.
So it becomes like an information center? Or is it an occasional walkthrough display area? I don't know. That's what we have to sort that out a little bit.
Sam, that was the question that created, I don't know if it was a statement or whatever, and I think it was Dustin, is how do you want to tell your story? And so the tribe was leaning away from, the display cases and all those kind of things and wanting to have more out there touching and that kind of stuff. So so the question that you ask is related to how do you want to tell your story? And that's what we'll build.
I've seen some very nice museum type presentations that are not display cases. They are hands-on materials, but they're not, they're open to the public in a general sense. You just walk through. There's one, the logging museum down near wherever that is. It's a very nice, but it has displays also, but it has some very nice hands-on stuff. So, I don't know, we gotta work on those parts.
Thank you for all of the ideas.
Oh, believe me, that
There's nothing, right?
you're getting a clear picture now, aren't you?
Yeah.
the project that Kelly and I and our team, we come to work on time for and stay late for. So it's been a real honor just to be a part of it.
It looks to me like this option 3 has most of the features that people like. It's just whether the office and the restroom locations are optional. It seems to me to be the issue.
Yeah.
The one up there in the welcome center just looks like somebody just stuck it there, because they felt like you needed one. So,
Exactly.
but it doesn't. It seems like stuck right in the middle. You just wasted all that space on either side of it. I don't know whether it's true or not, but anyway, the restrooms seem awkward. I like Bruce's idea that the office ought to be someplace where you can keep an eye on it, but maybe the office and storage ought to switch places with the restroom in that. The restrooms moved south and the office and storage moved to the north in that same block there.
On option 3, not too keen on the idea of glue lamp added structure on the inside. I understand what you're trying to do, to have the openings more grand there. But again, that's why I keep focusing on the south wall, because we can do stuff with the south wall and not hurt anything. So. But it is a unique entrance and it does cause issues with how do you get to the classrooms then? So, I don't know.
Can I see if we can diverge from architecture for a minute?
Okay, what do you got?
Okay, this is something that the tribe brought up. And in kind of paraphrasing their words, you know, this is about the tribe, but it's also about the school. It should also be about the school. And we have a group we're working with for the tribe, but we don't have a group we're working with for the school. And I'm just wondering how, you know, do you all have any suggestions or something so that, like, maybe if a decision is made that something more over on this side with the murals and things like that would be more related to the school, but it's who do we talk to about that? So it's easy to say, all right, well, these are the people in the tribe, and they're the ones that'll set up their representatives, but it should be about the school.
What about the History Center?
Well, we can have,
Because they would have the history of the school.
oh, yeah, we could probably get information from them if that's what you're talking about. It would probably be, but I would also think that maybe some people that went there or, you know, got a personal tie to it. Yeah.
Well, we also got Barb. Well, yeah, and I've got that connection and we could find some folks and, you
Yeah.
know, just help present to them.
Yeah.
If they're not already on our watch list right now, but,
But it's the gap we have right now, and we're working with the tribe, and we don't want to say, and they didn't need it. We don't want to go and take over the whole site, and then if somebody say, what about the school that's been here all this time and was so important to the challenge? So,
I think a lot of the input that we got did reference the fact that they want to use the gym as a gym.
Mhm.
That's a strong memory for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So being able to do that. And yeah, I think, I agree. We'll sort something out.
That and preserving the murals on the breezeway and the classroom
Yeah.
wall, north wall.
yeah, and the mural in the gym is now covered with masonite and will stay that way throughout the rest of the project. Yeah, because so we protect that. I'm not sure until we talk to the CMGC, can we do something similar to the outside walls? Especially when we're talking about opening up the outside, the walls on the south, no, on the north. So, but somebody's told me that there are places or companies that actually can recreate murals or something like that. So we could finish the work and then put it in, but I don't want us to lose that.
Well, the doors are already there to the north on the classrooms, but I'm not sure.
Replacing those doors?
We would be in all options. And the reason for that is a strong desire, not only by the tribe, but just during all of our community outreach events of opening the views of those classroom spaces out to the estuary. And part of that is replacing not only the door, but wall adjacent to the door with a storefront system that starts at ground level and goes up to, 8, 9, 10 feet.
I'm gonna put my foot in it here, I think a little bit, but when I see that, I'll talk about it as a student of the school. And to me, the view from standing level, whether you're inside the gym or inside one of the classrooms, looking due north, you don't see the estuary. You don't see the water. Water drops down. It drops down. You see trees. That's great. And you see the courtyard or the playing field. I understand getting north light. I understand having opening sense to that area. But there's not really a view other than the trees, which is, I'm not denigrating the trees as a view, but you don't see the water. The only way you're actually going to have a really pleasant experience of viewing the water would be from a mezzanine on the north side of the gym.
The discussion that we had with the tribe came out of if, when the longhouses were there, that's how they would orient the longhouses. And so then that's where I think we've been picking up, trying to go ahead and open out to that, the classrooms or whatever. But the word view didn't come up, but it was just so practical back in the day that's, what you did with the longhouse, and it was kind of, that was how you did it.
No,
That's where that came from.
Yeah, okay, it's being said as a view. I'm just trying to clarify that a little bit. It is a view. I'm not disagreeing that it's not a view. It's just not of the creek. You can't see the creek.
Yeah.
King tide you can.
Yeah, there's times you can. The other sense is as a classroom or an event space as classroom size. Windows sometimes are a distraction, depending on what you're doing. If it's a wedding, it's not. But if it's a seminar on something, it could be,
Taxes.
oh, I'm just daydreaming now out the windows, which is what I always did towards the south. So, I don't know. It's just, there's some extra little internet there.
Even if you could somehow capture those side of the bathrooms, you saw them out. Now you've opened up, you're gonna open up wider doors and windows. Where would you put those murals? You can't put them back there. What would you do with them?
Those aren't even salvageable, are they? There's some cement on the outside that we would,
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stucco.
yeah, stucco. So the one inside, it's on panels like
Yeah, that one I-
4x8, so those could come off. But the ones on the outside, I think that any work that we do, and also don't forget, we've got seismic work to be done on the on the walls of the classrooms. So I don't know how careful we can be.
The best way to retain those is to photograph them.
Yeah.
And display it as a past memory.
Yeah.
And bring in a bunch of kids and do a new mural somewhere nice. I liked your graphic last time on the southeast corner. That's a good place for a mural.
Yeah, we can't let them dictate structure and the work that gets done on that building, trying to preserve them.
I had got a lot of notes here, but sure. Oh, one for Kelly. To me, if I'm sitting in the audience and watching a presentation in the outdoor venue, kind of probably want to be facing north. Facing south, you're going to be in the sun the whole time, and your object of whoever's speaking, lecture, presentation of some kind, going to be in shadow. You reverse that, they're going to be lit by the sun. They can't see you. It's a natural theater thing. So just put that in your box and think about it a little bit.
Of course, the sun will be in their eyes when they're trying to give a presentation.
Yeah, but again, that's the theater part where the lights are in your eyes all the time.
Those theater people, they'd put up with anything. Yeah, and also there were things you could do if there's some trees over that way or try to line it up with that kind of stuff. So what?
Graphic. The hell of a graphic. That's
Yeah.
really almost feels like a video game. because people are gonna start walking any moment.
One thing I liked about this, and I didn't want to focus so much on the amphitheater, knowing that it's going to change significantly, but if we were to dig down a little bit adjacent to this drive for the food bank, not to preclude anything that Mayor Salmon just said, if it were to stay in this general orientation with this wall as the backdrop, that wall were high enough, what a great backdrop to have to a performance than, a new mural from the children to replace the existing.
Yeah.
But to Sam's point, one that'll be in the shade, right?
But you still have the roadside. Side for mural. But that could also be the berm side too. With the trees as a backdrop.
Well, I'm gonna let the landscapers figure that one out.
I'm sure I'll have more notes for you later, but I'm done. Anybody else have any?
When you brought up, Bruce, about changing the direction of the one-way for Beaver Street, how do you envision what happens to Antler? Does that by necessity have to become a one-way street as well? Or do you leave it as a two-way street?
I don't know, we'd have to look at it, but the intention would be that there would probably be a one-way street.
The problem runs into the parking lot where the big restaurant has to be accessed from the east to go that way. All their parking is lined up in one direction. Or no, that way. Yeah, it has to be accessed from Antler. That's not a great problem, but so it's either clockwise or counterclockwise.
Yeah.
And you're just going a block, so it's not a big effort for somebody to go around the other way.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking the same way you guys were, is it's just automatic to come in and turn right. Whereas you're still going to cross traffic
One way or the other.
one way or the other. So,
But right now going into the coast parking lot, right now you enter from Antler
right.
by coming off of, what is it, Third Street, Fourth, whatever. So turning that one way around, like Bruce said, seems to make sense.
And again, what I'm talking about is just to keep that blockage off of Hemlock. There's such a short, come off Hemlock, there's just a little bit of room, everybody will be behind you, and it might not be a big deal.
That works great. The only thing I would think about is where the nose in our 90-degree parking would fit. Gain maybe one car. I doubt it, but maybe.
Yeah, and so as we move on into this second stage of schematic design, we'll be bringing in our civil designer, civil engineer heavily, and start opening up conversations with our Cannon Beach engineering and seeing, what is going to be tolerable from a deviation to the city's standards for right-of-way improvements to be able to accommodate some of this stuff.
Okay. Any last comments from you guys?
Well, don't give up on the entrances on the side of the gym. Just because it requires a glue lamp. I think it gives it a very grand entrance into that gymnasium. And really fits with what we're all discussing right now, and that is to have I wouldn't say impressive, but a welcoming, recognizable, hey, look, that's an event center. And not just these little doors that go off from the plaza, but truly an entrance. Whether it is an outie or an innie, it's theirs. Take a look at what goes on inside the gym that need to, would it encroach on the activities? And innie rather than outie. But by being able to make that an entrance on the side, I really like the idea of being able to open it up on both sides and have another great breezeway through there. Think about it, but with a cover.
You know, and I hope we haven't stressed our preference for the last option too hard, because every option here has its benefit. But for me, it's well, first, before I even say that piece, I would say that we're looking at now 3 potential entrances into the gym, right? We're looking at either that last option that has the 2 glue lamps and the side entrance through the barrel vault portion of the gym, or through the existing breezeway, or through the south face. Any of those options, none of those will preclude this from being a successful project. Any of those are going to work and work beautifully as a main entrance. For me personally, it's hard to disassociate the main entrance to a primary function of the space from what I would argue is the main gathering point to the site, and that's the Southeast Plaza. But to Mayor Sam's point, if that really is the bulk of where you see people sort of congregating outside in anticipation of entering the site, is that Southeast Plaza. It's not a long distance to the south face of that gym. I think it's absolutely an option that needs to be explored further.
Well, yeah, I agree. The south face is, you know, kind of what we've all envisioned, I think. But then,
But philosophically, the problem with the south face entrance to me is that it, you know, we always want to see, or usually want to see, your primary entrance facing the, if you're on a corner of 2 streets, that it faces out towards the prominent street. So in this case, the arterial, which is Fair Street, and not the local collector, probably is what it is for Beaver. But also that that south face is just facing another business. You know, it's almost
no, it's a good.
sideways, not backwards, but sideways.
I actually would kind of shift that a little bit, because one of the big values here in Cannon Beach is that we're not integral to Highway 101. We're not on the main arterial. So the main arterial is not always the best for business. It's when somebody has to pull off and go that one step further to get where they're going, means that they want to go there. If you're just driving by and, you know, so I guess that's just my sense of Beaver would be better if we could make that the grand entrance. But you'd still see it from driving by. And the Southeast Plaza is still connected. So I don't know.
It's just that south end just opens up and looks across the street at some businesses. Where the one on the east looks out toward the river, the trail, the park. And one little away from that.
Well,
Good. Well, exactly. They're all good options. Like I said, I think any one of them is going to lend towards a successful project. We'll see what the collaboration with the tribe, what that brings about, and preference for locations and the reasons behind that. And like I said, we'll explore the south face entrance further than we have. There are a lot of benefits. There are cost benefits as well as pragmatic benefits.
question, I don't have direct access to what the tribes are considering. The Dragonfly, when they're hoping for an interior storage kind of display.
It's hard to say right now. In our initial meeting with them in the programming phase, that seemed to be pretty clear. However, the concept, I think, as it made its rounds internally within the tribe is kind of maybe faded a little bit and might not necessarily be a requirement of theirs or a high desire. I think when they looked at the shape of what we were proposing as the option 3 for the welcome center, and it has an obvious little bump out for the dragonfly, and whether or not.
So Todd's actually on if you want to ask him anything.
Yeah.
You know, it occurred to me they can keep the dragonfly outside, maybe under a roof. And then they have access to it to take it to other events easily, where if it's in the building, now you're gonna have to design that building with garage doors, and so they can roll it out and hook it up and then leave an empty space. So an exterior storage that fits, near the Heritage Garden or the north patio area.
Todd, what are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
first, thanks for even thinking about it, because it is a pretty neat object, as you've probably all seen it by now. Excuse me for the noise. I'm in a odd spot, but our thinking is that it's a living thing and active and would be moved in and out and might not be a good fit for that space. But we do see us and other, part of canoe culture bringing other canoes to the site on kind of the estuary side and displaying them for days and that sort of thing. But as a permanent fixture, I'm not sure, because of turning radiuses and security. And we have recently acquired another antique canoe, original, that was part of in Seaside Museum that we have, that we can also, they've given back to us. So maybe that could be incorporated somewhere in the space. But as a storage area, I agree that with the garage doors and stuff, and it's wet when you bring it back out, and we're sort of questioning if that's the right move.
Todd, if there was an outdoor covered area that it could be parked and displayed on occasion,
That'd be great. Yeah, that would be great. Or in the breezeway, or in the, and I think of the breezeway, there's a couple of them. There's one that runs east-west and one that runs north-south. So I think if we could figure out a way to get it in there, it would be amazing for everybody. And it's doable. You can guide those little hand trolley things to back it in for the last radius turn, so you don't have to parallel park it. So there's a lot of ideas. That'd be great to explore.
Canoe with training wheels? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you more ideas if you want. Sure.
I think that if there's direction to continue developing these based on the conversations that we've had, that's an important one. And then we've talked about some other things like going through whatever process we need to go through to deal with the parking issue, dealing with our own parking requirements. And also, I thought of another one that was similar to that tonight. And that'd be doing whatever we're going to do with Beaver. Those things are going to take, some time to go through, our own processes. And we're going to reach a point that unless we have an answer, we can't really say we have a design. So I'm asking, are you authorizing us to move forward with exploring those to the point that we're ready to come back to you and say, we think this is the process. We won't go through anything until you tell us to go. But I think we should start those as quickly as we can so they don't become on the critical path.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so.
I would like to have it online so that the public can see what we've talked about tonight, because I don't think many people are on.
No.
And it's such a heartfelt thing for the whole community. I want to make sure that it's out there, because I think a lot of people look forward to it being out a couple of weeks ago. And so now we really do need to share it.
We agree. And that'll happen. It also brings up another part. we said that we were gonna have this forum open so that, people could ask questions and we could answer and all that. And that, we're recognizing that that is a pretty impossible situation. We might not have an answer. I don't know what the other things are, but also it's a lot of staff time to do that. What we would like is to say that if, send your comments, questions in. And then the council will review those before our meetings. And then if there's something that you want to have us explore or respond to, we'll do that. But we can't realistically be spending that much time to go ahead and answer every question that comes up. So we would like to, move forward in that way until we get some other complaints. Now, the good news is that so far we have 4 comments. 2 of them are from counselors. And I forgot who the other 2 were, but I think they might have been employees or something like that, but.
Gary Hayes.
Pardon? Oh, yeah, Gary, we had 2 people that were running for
Gary
office.
Hayes, and one was a previous planning commissioner.
Yeah. So we're not getting inundated with it yet, but we would like to, until we have a real problem, we would like to move forward that way, that you all review the comments, and then when we have a session like this before it, you get that comment to us, we'll be able to address it.
I think most people don't know enough, and they're gonna wait till they have closer to a final.
Sure.
Then they'll go back to where we started and start talking about that stuff, but that's okay. But I like the idea of, as you get comments and questions, look at them, because probably there are gonna be many of the same questions.
Sure.
We're also posting them on the website.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all in renovation page thing.
We have, I noticed Andrew's here tonight. Could we have a story in the community bulletin to let people know?
Why is here?
That's good.
He's gonna write all this down, what we said. Okay.
Okay.
We good? Thanks, Stefan.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
It's a good process.
And the, just to repeat myself, the candidates forum is October 16th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Coaster Theater. And that's just city council and mayor candidates.
Okay.
And the community grant ceremony is tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Chamber Hall.
You're gonna help out with that, Barb?
Pardon?
You're gonna help out and hand out checks with it?
You would be disappointed.
But I had to ask. Okay. Anything else? Good of the order? Nope, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Maya.